Thousands of airplanes worth hundreds of billions of dollars are sitting in deserts around the world. Some will never fly again. Others are quietly waiting for their next owner. And a surprising number are being stripped apart piece by piece, making more money after retirement than they ever did in the air. These are the billion-dollar airplane graveyards that almost nobody talks about. When people hear the words airplane graveyard, they usually picture rows of rusty jets abandoned in the middle of nowhere. But that's not really what these places are. Most are actually highly organized storage facilities. Every aircraft is tracked, maintained, and inspected. Some are preserved so they can return to service in a few months. Others are kept for years while airlines decide what to do with them. And the oldest aircraft become giant warehouses of spare parts. An aircraft worth $150 million does not suddenly become worthless because it stops flying. In many cases, its engines alone are worth tens of millions of dollars. That is why airplane graveyards have become a multi-billion-dollar industry. The location is perfect for long-term storage. Arizona's hot, dry climate means there is very little humidity. Corrosion happens much more slowly than it would in wetter parts of the world. That's why so many aircraft end up in deserts. The same idea applies to commercial airplane graveyards. One of the largest is Pinal Airpark, also in Arizona. If you've ever seen hundreds of airliners parked wingtip to wingtip in satellite images, there's a good chance you've been looking at Pinal. Airlines from around the world have stored aircraft here for decades. You'll find retired Boeing 747s, Airbus A380, McDonnell Douglas MD-11, Boeing 757s, and many others. Some aircraft arrive after airlines go bankrupt. Others are simply too old to operate economically. A four-engine aircraft like the Boeing 747 or Airbus A380 burns significantly more fuel than modern twin-engine aircraft like the Boeing 787 or Airbus A350. When fuel prices rise, those older aircraft quickly become too expensive to justify, even if they are still perfectly capable of flying. But retirement doesn't always happen because of age. Sometimes, an aircraft becomes a victim of changing technology. Take the Airbus A380. The world's largest passenger aircraft once represented the future of aviation. Airlines ordered more than 250 of them. Then, the industry changed. Instead of flying huge numbers of passengers through major hub airports, airlines shifted towards smaller aircraft flying directly between cities. Suddenly, many airlines found the A380 too expensive and too difficult to fill consistently. During the COVID-19 pandemic, dozens of A380s were flown into storage. For a while, it looked like the world's largest passenger aircraft might disappear much sooner than anyone expected. Rows of nearly new A380s sat parked in Spain, France, Australia, and California. Many people assumed they would never fly again. But something unexpected happened. Travel recovered faster than airlines expected. Demand exploded. Aircraft manufacturers struggled to build enough new planes. Suddenly, those stored A380s became valuable again. Airlines like Emirates, British Airways, Qantas, Singapore Airlines, and Lufthansa brought many of them back into service. It's a reminder that an airplane graveyard isn't always the end of the story. Sometimes it's just an extended parking lot. One of the most fascinating commercial storage facilities is in Victorville, California. Officially called the Southern California Logistics Airport, it became internationally famous during the pandemic. At one point, more than 500 commercial aircraft were parked there. Entire airline fleets suddenly had nowhere to go. Travel restrictions caused passenger demand to collapse almost overnight. Instead of flying empty airplanes around the world, airlines placed them into long-term storage. From above, the airport looked almost unreal. Hundreds of jets lined up across every available taxiway and parking area. It became one of the largest collections of inactive commercial aircraft ever assembled. As travel returned, many left, but not all of them. Some aircraft never flew passengers again. Once an aircraft reaches the end of its useful life, something remarkable happens. It starts earning money by coming apart. Modern airliners contain thousands of valuable components. Landing gear, flight computers, hydraulic systems, cockpit displays, seats, emergency equipment, even the ovens in the galley can be removed and installed on another aircraft. Everything that can legally be reused is carefully removed, inspected, and certified. The biggest prize is almost always the engines. A pair of engines from a Boeing 777 or Airbus A350 can be worth tens of millions of dollars, depending on their condition. Sometimes an airline buys an entire retired aircraft simply because purchasing the engines is cheaper than ordering new ones. After the valuable parts are removed, the remaining aluminium structure is cut apart and recycled. Very little actually goes to waste. In fact, up to 90% of a modern aircraft can eventually be recycled or reused. That makes airplane recycling one of the most valuable recycling industries in the world. But there is another reason aircraft end up in storage. Sometimes, airlines simply have nowhere else to put them. Boeing's production problems over the past few years created unexpected shortages across the aviation industry. Airlines that planned to replace older aircraft suddenly had to keep them longer. Others placed aircraft into temporary storage while waiting for delayed deliveries. Storage gives airlines flexibility. Instead of making an expensive decision immediately, they can wait until market conditions improve. That's exactly why you'll often see aircraft disappear into a desert for several years before unexpectedly returning to service. Perhaps the most surprising thing about airplane graveyards is just how much money is sitting there. A single storage facility can contain hundreds of aircraft. Even assuming an average value of $20 million per aircraft after depreciation, that's billions of dollars parked in one location. During the pandemic, the combined value of aircraft sitting in storage worldwide was estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars. It's probably one of the largest concentrations of valuable machinery that most people will never see. And despite the nickname graveyard, many of these airplanes aren't actually dead. Some are waiting for new owners, some are being converted into cargo aircraft. Others are providing spare parts that keep thousands of passenger flights operating every single day. Without these aircraft, airlines would struggle to find replacement components quickly enough. In many ways, the global airline industry quietly depends on airplane graveyards. They are the aviation world's emergency warehouse. So the next time you see satellite images showing hundreds of aircraft lined up in the desert, remember that you're not looking at abandoned airplanes. You're looking at billions of dollars worth of aviation history. Some of those aircraft have carried presidents. Some have crossed the Atlantic thousands of times. Others once represented the future of flight before technology moved on. Their flying days may be over, or they may not. Because in aviation, retirement is often just another phase of the journey. And somewhere in a quiet desert, another airplane is waiting to find out whether it will fly again or become the spare parts that keep the next generation in the air.